Happy holidays, everybody. Happy Tuesday evening. How are you doing today? How is life? How are the holidays treating you? Are you ready for Christmas? I hope you are. You got some wrapping to do? I sure do. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. It is Tuesday, just after 9:30. I appreciate you guys returning for another session with me here tonight. Happy holidays to you all. I truly hope you're having a joyous holiday season, however you celebrate, you and your family. I wish peace and love to all of you. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. Make sure to hit the like button on the stream, share it out as much as possible. Let's get this thing out there so we can have some fun this evening. I got a lot of good topics for us. Yes, the Lions lost. Yes, we know what happened to the Steelers, and we're going to dive into that in detail, but we're going to talk about everything coming out of that, what that could mean for the Lions in the big picture in the long term. So we got a lot of good stuff ahead of us. And then more important than anything else, we're going to reminisce on Christmas past, holidays past, all the good memories, everything you can come up with. I want to share with you guys tonight. I want to hear from you in chat. We're going to have so much fun talking holidays. And we're going to relate it back to the Lions here with what can Santa Claus bring to the Lions this year or heading into 2026, the new year, so that we can benefit this team for the future. And that's where we're going to start today. What should Santa bring the Lions? And we're going to dive into that in detail. I appreciate you guys getting in the chat early. Jody, Scott, how you guys doing? Jeff, Lupe, Trim, how we doing? Everybody's here. I appreciate you guys so much. Happy holidays. It's so good to see you. How are you all doing? Let's kick this off. Cheers to you guys. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. What a fun evening we're going to have here today. Merry Christmas, Trim. What up, doe? Let's get these comments flowing here, guys. There we go. There it is. All right, we're working now. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. It's a wild week. You know, the week of Christmas, for those working full-time, you know, and I work at the Glennet Highland Meadows Senior Living Community here in Queensbury, New York. I love that community. I really do. I love the place. I love the people who live there. I love the staff. I love working in the sales and marketing department. It's so much fun. But the week of Christmas is so hard, right? Because you really don't want to get in anything serious. You don't want to open up new projects. You don't want to you really, I hate to say it, but I didn't really want to dive into anything, especially today. I have the rest of the week off. So starting tomorrow, Christmas Eve, through the rest of the week and the weekend, I am off. And I'm feeling really good about it. I hope all you guys have some time off coming, especially for the actual holiday. But the week itself at work is like, man, it's a struggle. The days are long. Again, you're trying not to get into anything too serious, but you want to make sure you get the things that you have to get done. So, man, it was a weird week. I hope everybody else, feels me there. But hopefully you guys can make it through your work week so you have some time off to spend with your family and friends, your loved ones, so you have a good holiday. Millicent's in the house. You know what that means when Millicent comes in the house. Welcome back. Millicent, how you doing? She says, hi, Johnny. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. Go Lions. A great way to kick off this live. So, yeah, Detroit entered Week 16 in a must-win situation. Their last home game of the season, the Detroit Lions, going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The gong returns. Yes, Millicent, the gong. Welcome back. Happy holidays to you. Lions entering that Week 16 game against the Steelers in a must-win. For them to have realistic shot at the playoffs, they really had to win out. Unfortunately, the Lions laid an egg in Week 16, especially offensively. And they lose the football game 29-24 in a real gut-wrenching fashion there at the end. And we're going to dive into what happened at the end of that football game in some detail. Obviously, the Lions hung in there the entire football game. No one would have considered the Steelers any sort of powerhouse with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, aging at the end of his career. Steelers have been up and down, but ultimately they are hanging in there in the AFC North. And it was never going to be a layover, but you expected the Lions would come out firing on all cylinders, and it just didn't happen. Detroit ends up having to convert some late fourth down plays at the end. Jared Goff having to make some miracle pitch dive into the end zone, and everyone thinking the Lions had actually, in miracle fashion, won that football game. But due to an offensive pass interference call on Amon-Ra St. Brown, that touchdown was taken away and the game was over. This coming after an offensive pass interference was already called on Isaac Tesla in what appeared to be a game-winning touchdown for the Lions moments before that to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So it was really a tough ending for the Lions. Tough way for them to go out in Week 16. And I think what was more disappointing than that was some of the effort that was put out there in some of these units. And we knew that the Lions were playing from behind, but the rushing attack was probably the most disappointing thing to that Week 16 loss to the Steelers. I don't know if you guys agree with me there, but truthfully, Lions had 15 yards between their two running backs. David Montgomery had 14 of those yards. And the Lions just were not able to get anything productive going on the ground. Yeah. And that was maybe the most difficult thing to take in. Graham Glasgow did not play in the matchup against the Steelers. And as much as we probably all knew that Graham Glasgow isn't Frank Ragnow and wasn't going to be the long-term piece for the Lions at center, it shows how much he meant to the offensive line because they really disappeared. The rushing attack fell off when he left the lineup. They were without their depth pieces at center, so they had to go with Kingsley Egaquin. You had Christian Mahogany returning at left guard and coming off of that leg injury. It was a lot to ask, combined with an inexperienced center as far as true game experience. And the interior was just in shambles, and it showed because the Lions could not rush the football. When you can't rush the football, the Lions offense, the bread and butter, it really affects everything else. So the Lions struggled all day really until the end, and they had to abandon that rushing attack to really get anything going. Trim says, the OPI and Tesla still makes me want to Brian Branch my grandma. That's clever, Trim. Don't Brian Branch your grandma. And if your grandma needs a place to live, I'm going to get you my card. Millicent says, I was informed by my sister that the score of Lions 30, Steelers 29 never appeared on the screen at home. At Ford Field, it was crazy. The scoreboard showed 30. So they actually processed the touchdown score. The way that the official announced it, too, was just terrible. I just don't, I understand what he was getting at in the whole thing, but it wasn't relayed very well. I think it was a tough take in for a lot of folks. Jason Fuller, how you doing, buddy? New OC in DC and renewed belief. That's what Santa must be bringing in Jason's mind. I like that, Jason. I appreciate you getting in. Trying to bring Frank back was dumb. All self-belief the D had in itself went out the window. Yeah, Jason, that's an interesting point. I think the fact that he was going to come back and then didn't pass the physical and didn't end up coming back was a real punch to the gut for a lot of folks. I'm sure in the locker room, people got their hopes up that maybe some things were going to kind of fall back in line for their offensive line. And when he didn't come back, that really hurt. So I think you could argue in the big picture, maybe that whole spiel wasn't worth it. But in the end, there's still an opportunity that Frank Ragnow returns to this team going into next year. They haven't closed the door on that idea. And I would think, in my opinion, I'm open to that, especially considering how the Lions played against the Steelers. We're talking about their performance here, 15 yards on the ground, and Jahmyr Gibbs just not anywhere to be found. As much as the Lions tried, they just could not get anything moving. Couldn't do it. I thought Jared Goff still fought through everything. Big yardage in an effort from him, and he's really given you that effort all season long, playing through a lot of inefficiencies in play calling, obviously with the offensive line. He's lost weapons. He's been without Sam Laporta, his security blanket. And through all of this, he's remained very efficient. And as much as people want to down talk Jared Goff, I really don't think that he's the problem here. I really believe this is a combination of their offensive line, inconsistent play calling, maybe an unwillingness or an unable to use the current talent they have correctly. And I've made the argument that this coaching staff has tried to fit the 2025 roster into the 2024 rotation or the 2024 idea. And it's just not the same talent level. And they weren't successful. You know, the defense really allowed Pittsburgh to run all over them. I thought the defensive line, the pressure was okay, but they just were gashed in several areas. And it all starts with the depleted secondary, the lack of safeties, both Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph not being there. It just kills them. And when you combine situations where the Lions aren't getting home as much as I think they would like on the defensive line, it really puts them in a tough spot. So they were gashed through the air, through the run. And there just doesn't seem to be a defensive identity. It felt like earlier on in the season with Kelvin Shepard and everything that we saw, let's say through 10 weeks or so, you felt pretty good about where the direction of the defense was heading. But as the defensive secondary pieces continue to fall off, I think it hurt them long-term not to have more pieces up front to help Aiden Hutchinson, and that all caught up to them. So the injuries on the defensive side, I think, has just been killer. And you're right, Trim. It's been a roller coaster of a season. There's been ups. There's been downs. I remember coming out of the Baltimore Ravens game thinking the Lions were on a path, like back to a Super Bowl, thinking that victory would propel them towards it again. And we're so far away from that moment, in my opinion. And it's kind of crazy. So it has certainly been a roller coaster. Scott agrees. I mean, there's not much. I mean, thinking about the winners and losers coming out of that game, to me, I thought Isaac Tesla showed again that he can make an impact if given an opportunity. So offensively, it was nice to see. You know what you're going to get out of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think the thing that will help Amon-Ra St. Brown will be if the Lions are able to somehow reestablish a rushing attack. And we'll talk about big picture, sort of what they might do or what they could do. But I just thought losers in that game, the offensive line, I mean, clearly, play calling, I thought there was a lot left to be desired. They just didn't find the formula really until the fourth quarter. I mean, they were absent. They weren't even on the field really in the third quarter because they had a couple 3-and-outs and the Steelers maintained possession of the football. So it was hard for the Lions to even get opportunities. And I think the Steelers game was really a microcosm of the big problem. Scott says, I agree about the Ravens game too. Yeah, I think that was one of the high points of the season was that Ravens game. And you felt good about a lot of things. The Lions defense looked good there. Their rushing attack looked like it was firing on all cylinders. But I think what we come to learn is that the Lions have beaten a lot of lesser teams. If you really look at, who the Lions have beaten here, I'll run it down for you. I mean, I think maybe their best victory now when you look at it all said and done is the week 2 victory over the Bears. Because then they beat the Ravens, and we just talked about that. That was week 3. And if that was their high point, you kind of know where I'm going with this, guys. But then they beat Browns, Bengals, Buccaneers, Commanders, Giants, and the Cowboys. The Buccaneers have fallen off. We know what's going on with the Commanders and the Giants, the Browns, the Bengals. Those are not quality wins. Lions have lost to the Packers, the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Packers, the Rams, and the Steelers. Basically every good team on their schedule. Millicent says, I'm still so incredibly proud of our Lions. The level of poise, professionalism, accountability by MCDC and Goff is always impressive. And I think that's something that we'll lean our hat on. We'll lean on Millicent as far as the long-term picture for the Lions. I think you still have a great organizational structure. I think they're going to have to reevaluate some of the ways that they do business, and we're going to talk about that. Jody says, have we lost our spark? ? Someone was saying that in another chat, and I thought it was a sad thought. I think it's easy to say that right now. I think right now it is about as low point from when Motor City Dan Campbell has taken over. It really, I mean, they were off to a really bad start in 2022 and turned things around. But really since that point up until now, things have been really good. And I think things are going to remain really good if they are able to make these small changes we're going to talk about. I think they might have lost the spark for this year, Jody, but long-term, I think the flame is there. That's how I would say it. Johnny G in the house says, yes, we will offensive line help. We'll need offensive line help next year. Yes, Johnny G, we certainly do. Definitely thought after beating BA, the Lions were going to go on a run. Was I wrong? You weren't wrong, Trim. I thought there were a couple points of this season where I thought the Lions were piecing some things together. But I think really, again, since Browns, Bengals, they haven't had back-to-back wins. It's been up and down since then. And finally, they broke the streak now in losing to the Rams and the Steelers back-to-back. So that's gone. Yes, Trim, Dr. Evil stole the Lions' mojo. Lupe says, that game showed out Monty as the feature back. Same with Cincy, which I think is funny. Yeah, the Baltimore game, absolutely. Yeah, I thought Monty was really good there. Cincy, he was good. I mean, honestly, a lot of the victories we go to, the rushing attack number one was featured, but Monty was a heavy part in that. And they just haven't been able to be consistent with it when it matters most. What's up, Blaine? How you doing? He says, who is the best college quarterback available that the Lions will draft? Blaine, I'll make it easy. They're not drafting a quarterback. As much as anybody might want that, I don't. You know what? They might take a depth piece project guy as a backup, but they're not looking for a quarterback of the future yet. They still got Jared Goff signed through 2028. And I just think he's been good enough to where quarterback is not going to be what they're looking for right now. Now, Blaine, if I'm not saying that there isn't a better solution out there maybe, but I just think with the way the organization operates, buddy, I just don't think they're going to go looking at a quarterback. And really, I don't know if this year is the time to go plucking a quarterback. So let's wait one more year. Let's revisit this after next offseason. If they can't turn this thing around and Jared Goff doesn't remain the efficient quarterback he's been, then I think this is a much different conversation next offseason. Millicent says, in the rundown of the schedule, our boys were still in it in those games against the better teams, tweaks away from winning. Tweaks being a combo of things from personnel to coaching and play calls. It seems like in a lot of the losses, a lot of it has been small tweaks. And the coaching staff has even said, after a lot of the losses in these press conferences, it's small things, a change here and there, a missed assignment here, a missed assignment there. But all these things have added up. They've now added up to an 8-7 Lions record, and they need a miracle to make the playoffs. And really, from my perspective, guys, they don't make the playoffs. I mean, they need the Packers to lose out, and they have to win their next two games. And we're going to talk about the upcoming matchup here, the Christmas Day game, just in a few days with the Vikings. Kind of an interesting off-the-field storyline, the DK Metcalf incident that happened on the sidelines of the game there at Ford Field against the Steelers. There's a couple different versions of the story coming from the DK Metcalf camp. The word is that the guy was shouting some sort of racial slur or something to that extent. Word from people in the stands, and then obviously the guy that was involved there was saying that he was just calling him by his legal name, like the Caden or whatever it is, which he took offense to, and then it created that incident, which you saw him grab that blue-haired fan on the sideline, then ultimately make a swipe up and a punching motion towards him. Now, there was not contact truly, but you could have hurt somebody there, and you can't grab a fan. You just can't get involved. I don't know why he's walking over to the stands in the first place. How you could get that distracted by one single fan shouting, I have no idea. Really speaks to me on the character of DK Metcalf. I'm not saying it's okay to do what the fan did, but if it's truly only shouting his legal name, I mean, you're allowed to do that. Now, if he was shouting racial slurs, absolutely not. Does it excuse DK Metcalf going to punch him? No, he's got to be able to maintain composure regardless of what's being shouted at him, because that's going to happen in a lot of places. You know, shoot, go play outdoors in Philly for a couple games and see how you feel. So it was a bad incident. That's a great way to describe it, Trim. He's unstable. DK Metcalf is unstable. Clearly, if a fan's able to get into his head like that, that incident was just kind of ugly, to be honest. Trim says trenches and safeties. Mills says all of those tweaks can be addressed and improved upon. So let's ask you this in chat. It's a great question. Let's open it up right there, Millicent. Thank you for getting involved so heavily in the chat. As always, great resource. Fantastic to have you. And a great jumping point. What are those tweaks the Lions have to make now heading into next season to get back to those winning ways, to get back to the 15-2 type play, to get back to that number one seed type play? I'm not saying they got to get back to a record of 15-2 or they have to get a number one seed every year. That's unrealistic. But clearly this team has fallen off in 2025, and we're saying that there's minor tweaks that need to be made. Tell me what those minor tweaks are. What do they have to do to get this thing back on track towards a Super Bowl in 2026? And in essence, that swings us back to our question. What should Santa bring the Lions this year? As we're heading into 2026, Lions season now winding down, it really looks like they're not going to the playoffs and really need to make some changes. So what should Santa bring the Lions? For DK money, you can call me anything you want. I agree with you, Trim. That's sort of the biggest picture point there, is like, you got to be able to overcome those kind of things. Like, that shouldn't matter. A blue-haired fan at a Detroit Lions game on the sideline should not be able to affect what you're doing as a pro football player. Wild to me. So Lions, again, 8-7 after this loss, mathematically still in the playoff picture, but would need the Packers to really drop off. And I believe right now the Packers have to play the Ravens and then the Vikings to end the season. And that's just as hard to believe the Pack drop both of those games. So with that being said, I think the Lions kind of fall out of contention, and we're really now looking towards how do we finish this season? What do we want to see in the last 2 weeks? And then how do we build towards 2020, 26 and beyond? Oh, my left knee just cracked so bad. Trim says, I would like a new offensive coordinator. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that might be the biggest offseason change that needs to happen. We know the failed experiment of Johnny Morton. Now, he's still hanging in there as sort of a passing game coordinator, and I don't know if that's going to be something he'll stick around for long term. But the question is there. Should Dan Campbell continue to be the offensive play caller heading into next season? Or do the Lions need to bring in some sort of new offensive mind to give a jolt of energy to this offensive side of the football? Clearly, the rushing attack, the offensive line needs to be revamped in some way. And whether that be bringing in free agents or drafting more offensive linemen, we're not sure if Frank Ragnow is truly returning. Clearly, they need to make some sort of change in the interior, and that might mean just truly a new offensive coordinator to bring new life to this. So it's a good point. In my opinion, I think Dan Campbell does need to relinquish the play calling. I don't think it worked outside of statistically the Lions still being one of the top scoring offenses in the league. There just wasn't enough rhythm to the offense, and the timing of when things would happen wasn't there compared to years past. And really, I think Dan Campbell, for the Lions' big picture, is better as a head coach, better as the true motivator of the entire organization and not necessarily your offensive mind. So I would implore the Lions to try and bring in someone else as that offensive coordinator this offseason. That's maybe the thing that I would say I would want Santa to bring the Lions heading into next year, is a new offensive coordinator. Lupe says they need to focus on the lines, get young but proven and quality backups. And we just hit on the offensive line. I think the defensive line just as important, Lupe. They have to reinvest in that defensive line up front. They haven't done that the last couple off seasons. They haven't done it in trade deadlines. And the argument always is, well, who's that player? Who's going to be the guy? It's like, well, there hasn't been one, not a single one. So there's got to be something to happen now, either in the draft or in free agency, to add to the defensive line. Give Hutch more help. Millicent says, my list would include a young, talented, and hungry offensive coordinator, a pass rusher to support Hutch. I think we're saying the exact same thing, Millicent. That's perfect. I'm with you 120%. Jody says, Santa needs to bring a competent center and a better offensive line in general, and a better defense. In other words, Santa needs to bring his entire bag. That's the thing. Santa's bringing the whole kit and caboodle. He's got all 12 reindeer. I think it's 12, right? He's got all 12. Rudolph's leading the sleigh. It's a big bag, and he can give the Lions whatever we want this year. What should Santa bring the Detroit Lions? What do they need the most? Draft me a stud left tackle, tight end, and a corner, says Trim. I like that. I like that a lot. I think a backup tight end is in the books, in the cards for the future. I think with the loss of Sam Laporta this year, you saw the depth pieces just not really be able to hang in there, especially compared to what they have in Laporta. So I think another tight end is something that this Lions team needs. So if that's in Santa's bag, I think he should pull that out. You said left tackle as well. We know that Taylor Decker is thinking retirement. We haven't heard that yet, but I think that's also in the cards. So another tackle, I think, is also something that we should be asking Santa for next season. Agreed. I want MCDC to stick to the big calls. Let someone with trick plays and know-how run this offense. Yeah, I want Dan Campbell at the top. I want him motivating my entire organization back to grit, back to that mentality. And then the Lions organization being okay looking at an outside person, like Millicent said, a young offensive mind, something that's a little different from what we've had here before. And I think it would benefit everyone, including Dan Campbell, if they could do that. Millicent says, TA has the perfect build for a corner, so a couple more like him would be great. We need TA to come back with a vengeance. And he's had the injury bug. Obviously, we got to give him another season to see what we truly have with Terry and Arnold. But I really think that's a player they need to have take a huge leap up next season. So more depth corners, I think you're right. But I think they have something in Terrion. And I thought they did a decent job. Like DJ Reed, Rock Yassin, they played okay against the Steelers. That wasn't the problem. It was some of those other depth guys, especially the safety pieces they had to plug in, I think that were really hurting them. Scott, the tight end is Anthony Ferkser, and he was with the organization last year. He's been around the Lions for a while, but he really hasn't been needed because of when Laporta's around. He's kind of your fourth guy in line there. But now with all that, the issues they've had at tight end, he finally got some playing time. And I think Jared Goff finally said, I'm not going to worry about getting the ball to anybody. I'm just going to see who's open. And then Steelers left Ferkser open several times. So he got the ball several times. Broski's in the house. How you doing, Broski? Says Laporta and Wright might not play again. Same with Kirby Joseph and Branch is going to miss a chunk of next season. Decker and Glasgow might hang it up. CB room not good. DT's not good. Yeah, there's a lot of issues, especially spotlighted now. I mean, Laporta, I think he's coming back. I wouldn't say, I don't think Sam Laporta is in a situation where long-term, I know the back is a problem, and that's going to take him out for a while, but I think he's coming back. I think they're also, we just said it, they're in a market for tight end regardless of if he comes back. They need another tight end. And yeah, they're in a tough spot. They're going to need a lot of depth pieces in the secondary. They really need help up front. I mean, that helps the whole nine. Offensive line, they're going to need several pieces. Yeah, we just hit on a lot of that. Trim says TA all the way, but we need more depth. Shout out. What up, broski? Yeah, we need more. We really, if we could just clone TA, I'd take more of him, but we need guys that can stay healthy, you know? Yeah, the Achilles for Branch, that's a tough one. I mean, I can speak from a little bit of experience. I'm working through a torn Achilles right now, and I am way more athletic than Brian Branch. So, no, I'm just kidding. It's troublesome. He'll be out probably till Thanksgiving next year. So that one, that hurts. Safety position for the Lions, it's tough because they just paid Kirby this last offseason, and I think the plan was to pay Brian Branch, and now you got to kind of reevaluate the whole situation. So there's a lot of questions there. So let's jump into week 17. In a few days, we have a game coming up with the Minnesota Vikings. Christmas Day, I think it's 4:25, 4:30 kickoff. This one on Netflix. Get to see the Lions play on Netflix. That'll be interesting. To a team they lost to earlier on this season. A very surprising loss, I felt like, at the time. And again, this going back to where the Lions really looking to stack wins to get themselves back into a playoff mode, and it just never happened. And this loss back in, was it 27-24 to the Vikings earlier this season, just reminded that things weren't going to be easy. And it didn't end up being easy the rest of the way. Right now, the Lions are favored by 7.5. It was 5.5. It's now up to 7.5. Despite the Lions coming off these recent losses, the Vikings are 7-8. They've been eliminated from playoff contention, but they're dangerous as a division rival. And obviously with them already beating the Lions, and they seem to have some of the kryptonite that might hurt the Lions in this matchup. Amon-Ra St. Brown missed practice this week, but he was back at it as of Tuesday. So he is in line to play for Christmas Day. And it does look like Graham Glasgow also returned to practice, so he appears like he'll also play this week. That will absolutely help the offensive line. That's what it's about, Trim. Christmas and chill, baby. I am so excited more than anything else to just enjoy Christmas. And yeah, I'm going to watch the Lions, and we're going to, and I'm praying for wins, and we'll talk about this here, but I want to enjoy Christmas. I hope you guys enjoy the holiday, however you spend it. If it's not Christmas, if you celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is, I just hope you're able to relax and have a peaceful time. Mag Life, how you doing? Says, how did Hutch make the Pro Bowl before J-Mo? Like, this shit is getting ridiculous now. I mean, I don't know. Hutch is certainly deserving of a Pro Bowl nod. I mean, he was the Lions' best defensive player. He's still a premier defensive player in the NFC. I mean, I think we all wish we could have got more out of Hutch and more out of the defense in general. And J-Mo is deserving. I agree. But it's popularity contests. You know how it goes. So let's talk about the key matchups. Lions, Vikings on Christmas Day. I think we got to go back to the most recent loss for the Lions against the Steelers in this offensive line. If Graham Glasgow is able to return, that should help the interior, which hopefully should get the rushing attack going for the Lions. So I think one of the key matchups is the O-line against the Vikings front. Can the Lions generate some sort of rushing attack that will then help the offense and hopefully get more of a rhythm than what they had against the Steelers? But we know that the Vikings have a formidable front seven. Andrew Van Ginkel has historically gotten after the Lions, and if he can remain healthy and stay in it for this Christmas Day matchup, he should be a difference maker. So I think that's one of your key matchups, the Lions offensive line against the Vikings front seven. Another one you got to look out for is the Vikings offensive weapons. No matter who ends up throwing them the football, J.J. McCarthy, a backup quarterback, whoever it is, you got to account for Justin Jefferson, Jalen Naylor, Jordan Addison. All three of those wide receivers can get after the Lions' depleted secondary. So not only do the Lions secondary have to worry about helping with stopping the run, but now you put those three wide receivers out there, and it's gonna test it heavily. It might even be a worse matchup for the Lions this week on Christmas than it was against the Steelers. So that one is another one to look out for. Lions secondary against the Vikings offensive weapons. And then lastly, it's all about the defensive line. The only way the Lions can help their secondary is if their defensive line gets after it, gets after the quarterback, stops the run. They have to play outside of themselves pretty much now for the Lions defensively to get after it, because it showed last week against the Steelers that even if they bring up their safeties to help stuff the run, the inexperience there sort of made things worse. They got gashed and scored on in the second half on multiple long runs because of misplays by the safeties. And again, they're going to have to account for those weapons for the Vikings, so they may not be available, which puts the emphasis back on the defensive line. They have to rush. They have to fill holes and gaps. They got to do their job better than what they did against the Steelers. So Lions defensive line against a depleted Vikings offensive line might be the biggest matchup here in Lions and Vikings on Christmas Day. Let me know in the comments, what do you think is the biggest matchup here for this Christmas Day game? Lions, Vikings, what determines who ends up victorious? And can the Lions break now this 2-game slump? Let me know. Trip says shootout in Minnesota? It's possible. It's possible. You got, I don't know. Now I say that, I don't know that Minnesota can get into a shootout. Minnesota, I don't know if can score a bunch of points. So, I mean, if the Lions offense could get something going, I think they could run away with it that way. Lupe says, I know we moved on, but we need Brad to humble himself. He needs to know that we need more than practice squad guys. I think there is a sense of that, Lupe. I agree with you. There is a stubbornness within the organization that I think needs to change a little bit. This whole draft, develop, and reward is great in theory, but there's got to be a little give and take. And this season, I think, showed more than ever is I think they got to be willing. You got to be willing to make a splash here or there. Relying on returning injured players is not the strategy. Trim says Maddox, Rock, and Harper need to play out of their minds. Yeah, they're going to need a lot from their secondary. You got a bunch of weapons for Minnesota that are going to be tough to cover. So if the Lions can't get after it, that might determine this game. Pro Bowl reminds me of voting for homecoming king in high school. Millicent, you're exactly right. It's just a huge popularity contest. It's just the way it is. I hate to say it. Trips has got to get to the quarterback. Lions can and will outgun Minnesota. Take a chance. Yeah, they have nothing to lose now, especially. So you might as well fire on all cylinders, pull out all the tricks out of the bag, let it rip. Let's let the guys have fun. Let's get back to playing Lions football. I think Aiden Hutchinson came out and had an interview this week and said it. Like, I just want to get back to having fun. This locker room wants to have fun. Winning is fun. And I think they need to find ways to get back to winning, and that brings the fun. So the keys to victory, Lions heading to Minnesota, week 17, Christmas Day, 4:30 kickoff on Netflix. Lions have to try to establish some sort of a run game. 15 rushing yards against the Steelers is pathetic. It's not what the Lions have been built on, and they have too good of talent at running back for that to happen. Yes, there's some issues on the interior of the offensive line, but they have to establish something on the ground that will help everything out offensively. Protecting the quarterback, I mean, that was always the number one, but now that the Lions haven't run the football, I think it kind of shifts that priority. I think you got to establish on the ground and then protect the quarterback. Obviously, Jared Goff, way more efficient when he is upright, and he's been very good these last several weeks through everything else. So if the Lions can continue to protect Jared Goff, I think they are in a good spot. Of course, limiting the turnovers anytime you're on the road against a division opponent, I think that obviously leans in your favor. So if the Lions can limit the turnovers, maybe force something on the other side themselves, Give them an extra possession on the road. That always will help. And the defense has to find a way to slow down these offensive weapons somehow. And whether that be through their pass rush, finding different ways to scheme your defensive backs and these depth pieces for the Lions. You have major weapons. Justin Jefferson, Addison, Naylor, they all can get after you. And if the quarterback has time, they will pick the Lions apart. So the defense has got to get after it. They got to slow down the Vikings defense somehow. I think it's going to be through their pass rush. You saw bits and pieces of it against the Steelers, but they need to get more from Aiden Hutchinson, from Malik McNeil, from Tyleik Williams, DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, that whole cast of characters. They have to play better. And if they can do that, those will be the keys to victory in Minnesota on Christmas Day. So let me know in the chat, what is your bold prediction for Christmas Day for the Lions and Vikings? Who will be the Lions player of the game? Let me know in the chat. Trim says it'll be Detroit 35, Minnesota 31. I like that. Glasgow being back, that's certainly going to help Scotty for sure. I think he is coming back, so I think that looks good for him. Guys, make sure to slap the like button on the stream if you haven't already. It's the best way to help this out today. I appreciate you guys hanging around, especially during the holiday week. Coming off of a Lions loss, and you guys are still coming to see me here at Johnny Gaz Sports. Thank you so, so much. I appreciate that. I really, really do. Having you guys here in chat is fantastic. And slapping that like button helps me out so much. So I appreciate that. So let's get into some holiday fun. It is Christmas week. It is the end of December. We're getting towards the new year. Obviously, the 25th being Christmas, we got a lot of fun things ahead. So the biggest question of the day was, what should Santa bring the Lions? And we've had a lot of fun, a lot of great suggestions. We talked about an offensive coordinator, and that's really, if I had to choose what I think Santa needs to bring the Detroit Lions here heading into the new year, and that's a new offensive mind. Someone to solidify the consistency and the rhythm of this offense. Get back to the identity. Form a new identity for the offense. And if that means a dominant rushing attack again, so be it. If that means attacking through the air with the weapons you have, so be it. But figure out a way to use the talent you have, bring in some additional pieces, whether that be through the draft and free agency, and then use this new offensive mind to reinvigorate what you already have on offense. There doesn't have to be wholesale changes, but I think a new direction could mean a lot for this offense. And I don't think it will take much. We talked about a tweak here and there. I think offensively, that certainly applies. Defensively, I think it's a whole different story. What should Santa bring the Lions defense? I think they need another edge rusher. And we've said that over and over again these past several off seasons. But the truth is they haven't found that guy. They need more help opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So if I'm asking Santa to bring them anything defensively as we head towards the new year, it is an additional pass rusher. Another thing I'd ask Santa to bring the Lions this upcoming season or for Christmas is some sort of luck with health and these injuries. And that's a lot to ask. That's maybe a miracle. That may be more of a genie in a bottle situation, but the Lions got to find some sort of help there. And injuries are a part of the game. We know that. You're never going to be able to overcome all injuries and expect to be fully healthy, especially at the end of a football season. That's unrealistic. But the Lions have really been hit with the injury bug these last several years. So whether that be reevaluating their strength and conditioning program or in the end bringing more talent in to where you overcome even the most devastating injuries. Because it feels like last year with Aiden Hutchinson, that was a devastating injury, but the Lions were still able to battle back using their identity, using the grit they had already established to get them to 15-2. Get them a number one seed and battle through that diversity. Where this year, I don't know that they were hit as hard as they were last year. They didn't have an Aiden Hutchinson type injury, but yeah, they lost a lot of key pieces. Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, those are heartbeats of your offensive and defensive operations. That's hard to lose, but I think with the right coaching and scheme and the right depth pieces, you could overcome that. Certainly be able to battle through and make the playoffs, and this team didn't do it. So Santa needs to bring them a lot of things. And me saying that, I go, Santa, we can ask Santa all we want, but the truth is Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Sheila Ford Hamp, everybody involved in the office there, they're the Santa Claus, and they got to figure out what needs to happen, what they need to pull out of their bag to get this ship back on track. And I don't think it's going to take much. Because I think the mental toughness, the discipline, the true direction is still there. You still have a top down. You still have a coach that the players respect. A program that I think people want to be a part of. But another season like this stacked on top of it, I think that starts to fall off. So it's very important that they figure out what the few tweaks are that get this thing back to where we thought it would be. I did not think the Lions would be at 8-7 at this point of the season. If you asked me, or if you told me the Lions would be 8-7 heading in the last 2 weeks of the year was real with a true no hope situation for the playoffs, I would have told you, you are crazy. You're crazy. You're drinking some kind of foul juice. But that's where we're at, guys. I love the Detroit Lions, and I will continue to love the Detroit Lions. We will paint a positive picture throughout the rest of the season, into the offseason, and figure out how to navigate this the right way, a positive way, so that we can enjoy the ride. Regardless, Johnny Gaz Sports is going to be here every Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And I really, really wanted to introduce a second live starting on Thursdays. But obviously with the holiday this week, holiday next week, and considering the fact the Lions probably aren't making the playoffs, I don't know that we're going to introduce the second live this season, but I think heading into the offseason, we will have more live sessions here like this. It'll most likely be Tuesdays and Thursday nights moving forward once we get out of the holiday season. So be on the lookout for that, and I will be introducing a ton more fun topics even outside of Lions, just so that we can come together, have fun, have great conversations in the offseason. Should be great. And I appreciate everybody, all you guys, for being involved in the chat. But let me know, what does Santa need to bring the Lions for these last 2 weeks or even heading into the new year? What do the Lions need to turn that corner? Let me know in the chat. What up, Robert? How you doing, buddy? No worries, man. Good to see you here. Rob Jackson, how you doing, buddy? We need to play heads-up football. Go Lions. That's right. Trim says, if nobody hires a Dolphins head coach, we should try him around our office a couple of years. Absolutely. McDaniel, right? Yeah, I would love that. Talk about a different kind of outside-the-box thinking offensive mind. I love that idea, Trim. Mike McDaniel, right? I don't know what his situation will truly be or if he'd be available to the Lions, but I like that. Scott says, I hope Santa brings in better referees next year. Yeah, man. That was, we didn't spend a lot of time on those calls, those OPI calls. I don't love focusing on that because I just think if that becomes the true focus, guys, I think we're not looking at this the right way, or like we're not really supporting the Lions and the future hopes. We know the officials have it out for the Lions. We know that the officials are a problem overall for the NFL, Vegas, and we talked about that, but it's just hard for that to be the true focus. It was bad. I think the first OPI was the worst one of the two. The second one where Jared Goff scored the touchdown, I do think Amon-Ra pushed off, and that was OPI. The first one, though, with Tesla, I think he was kind of dragged into it. I think that's a tough call to make in that situation, and they probably shouldn't even have been in that last play because that was a bad one. So I'm there with that. Trim says, a coordinator and a proven edge would make me happy after drafting linemen and a safety corner for depth. I agree with you. Woo! I'm with you. Shout out to Dan and the Duke crew. Absolutely. Oh, coordinator. I hear you. No, I got you on that one, Trim, for sure. So just bring some grit and joy for the last games of the season. That's what we want to see. We want to see grit. I want to see the Lions compete. I don't want to see them mail it in, and I don't think they will. I don't think a Dan Campbell team will mail it in. And really, with them having any shot at the playoffs, I just think that they'll go maxed out, until they're truly mathematically eliminated. So I don't worry about them not putting in the effort, but you really want to see it. You really want to see it pay off. They should go into Minnesota and get this victory. They really should. And I'll have some content leading into Christmas Day. I'll make a prediction, a game pick. So I'll have that out for you guys here this week. Scott says, have you seen the Nate Burleson interview with Dan Patrick? I did. I caught that one. Nate Burleson pretty much admitted that the league has it out for the Lions in some way, shape, or form. Again, that wasn't new news to me. Longtime Lions fans have known that. The Ford family has had issues with the league offices before. I don't think they are the favorites of the NFL. And I mean, Nate Burleson, it proves that it exists, but I just don't love that to be the focus. That's all. Milsa says, quite honestly, this is not the Lions roster that I want to take into the playoffs. I want our boys to win these last two. However, I don't want to see them limp into the playoffs and get embarrassed. And I think that's what would have happened, Millicent. Take away the way the Lions lost against the Steelers. Like, we haven't played the last 4 weeks. I truly believe the Lions were not making any sort of splash in the playoffs. They don't have the talent they had in previous years. Their offensive line just was not the same. And that really messed everything up. Rob says, need some new coaching to free up Dan Campbell. Yeah, the new offensive mind, I think, to get him back into being the true head coach. I'm agreeing with you there, Rob. I think that needs to happen as well. Robert Murphy says, we lost way too much during the offseason. Both coordinators, 2 Pro Bowl offensive linemen, true, and injuries. And we still have a playoff shot. It's bad, but it's not as bad as people think. You're right, Robert. Alex, let's put that up on the screen. It's a great perspective to have. There was a lot of change this offseason, losing both coordinators coming into this year. It is hard to think things were just going to continue. The offensive lineman is a great point. Not having Frank Ragnow, I think, might have been the biggest loss. And then you start to stack up the injuries on the defensive side, and it is a tough ask of this year's team. But it doesn't mean that they can't do this next year. They can't pick up where they left off. But I just think they need to make some changes, some minor changes, which could include a new offensive coordinator. So it's hard to even call that a minor change, but something has to happen there offensively. Otherwise, I do think they're close. Scott says, we were trying tonight not to. I hear you. I'm with you, Scotty. Indeed. Indubitably. But that's guys, I mean, it's hard, right? Because I think I want to come on here every week and wishing the Lions had won and be able to blow smoke and have the best time of our lives celebrating. And last year, we got to do that just about every week up until the divisional round. I mean, and it was an incredible ride. And this year has been so much fun. I introduced these lives this year, and I was scared to do it, to bring it public and have you guys come on board. Truly, I was nervous about it, but the more comfortable I got and to see you guys come in to chat, and we've had so much fun just truly bouncing ideas off each other, talking the good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between. This is what it's about, and we'll continue to do that. And we'll try to swing this as positive as we can each and every week, but I will continue to give the real to you. That's what I do. That's what Johnny Gaz Sports is all about. Trim says softer schedule and some tweaks, and the Lions are a Super Bowl winner. Now that's a benefit, Trim. If they do lose these last 2 games, they would actually fall into 4th place in the NFC North, and they would have a 4th place schedule going into next year, which is a benefit. I don't know. They won't play for that, and I don't know if I look forward to that, but it is a benefit. Rob says we need to keep Shepard, but find someone, and I think that's the plan. I don't think Kelvin Shepard's not going anywhere. They're going to give him more opportunity, more time. Next, go and give it to you. That's right. So let me know, guys, before we head out, what is your Lions Christmas wish? What does Santa need to bring to the Lions on Christmas Day? that will set them up for next year, for 2026. If you have not hit me up in chat yet, please do so. If you haven't hit the like button on the stream, please do that. That helps me out so much. Share it out to your friends and family. Let's get more people involved for future lives here on Johnny Gaz Sports. Again, every Tuesday night at 9:30. I will be back next week for sure. If I can work in an extra live here around that Christmas game, it's a possibility I go live Christmas night. Don't quote me on that. I'll send some notifications out if we end up doing it. But be on the lookout for that. If you guys are just hanging around Christmas night, come and see me. Otherwise, we will certainly have future lives every single Tuesday and hopefully on Thursdays here in the very near future. Scotty, no worries, man. We'll do a sharing crew. We'll get it together. It's no problem, buddy. This week's a tough week. A lot of people got a lot of stuff going on. It's Christmas week. It's holiday week. People finishing up work. They got a lot of shopping to do, taking care of their family, cooking, cleaning, traveling. So it's no problem, man. People got stuff. People got lives. I get it. Detroit Lions, I love them. I lean on them. They're my therapy in some cases. But I got a wife and kids sleeping upstairs that I love truly to death. And I cannot wait to spend Christmas with them and give them everything that I've worked so hard for this past year. It's a great feeling. I'm very, very lucky. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for what I have. I hope that you guys take a moment to yourselves and think about what you're grateful for, what the true meaning of Christmas is. And I don't mean that in the biblical sense. I just mean it in the sense of like family and love and peace and what you have to be grateful for. That's what I mean. Rob says new rusher and some new linemen. They might be in line for a new running back because I've seen some cryptic posts from David Montgomery. He's removed some of his posts from Instagram that involve Detroit Lions and some football things. And you wonder if there's already been conversations that they may move on from David Montgomery or that he might retire, possibly. Theo, what's up, man? Says healthy return of our injured Warriors next year. Yeah, we're going to need a lot of guys back. Can Brian Branch get back? He's going to miss, I think, a chunk of time. Can Sam Laporta come back? Broski brought up a couple good pieces there, that we're going to have to look up. We're going to have to look forward to and see if they can get back. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate you, man. I hope you have a fantastic holiday. Hope you have something good to look forward to. Millicent says, I'm multitasking right now, baking cookies and tuning in here. I appreciate you so much. Millicent, you know what you get for that. I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you so much for multitasking and always coming into Johnny Gaz Live. Honestly, it's so nice to have you here in chat. It's been very good. Thank you. Bruce, how you doing, buddy? Says, hopefully Frank will want to unretire next year. Shepard will be fine as our DC. Just need to get and keep players healthy. I hope Frank comes back too. I think it solves an immediate need and then sets you up for the future because they can draft maybe a center or another guard so they can figure out what they want to do with the interior moving forward. And Frank giving them one more good year would help them so much. So I'm with you there. Trim says, I'll look for you on Christmas and Merry Christmas, Johnny, and all the Lions faithful. Thank you, buddy. Trim, I hope you do. I'll send you a note maybe personally if I do go live. I'm thinking maybe Thursday, Christmas Day, maybe after the game. We'll see. Again, don't quote me on it. I'll send something out if we do that. But in the near future, it will be every Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday, just like this. Theo, what's up, man? No worries. Join late. I just appreciate you being here. Happy Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your gang. The dong for Millicent. Heck yeah, let's go Lions. Yeah, we need our guys back, Rob, big time. Appreciate you guys getting involved today. I really do. Millicent says, my personal Christmas wish is for my son to propose to his girlfriend. Just saying. Whoop, whoop. Fingers crossed. Okay? Let's get one. Let's get a marriage proposal for Millicent this year. That'd be awesome. I hope so, too. Robert says, I would love Thursday streams. Thank you for saying that, Robert. It is happening, Robert. It's coming. I just can't guarantee it this week or next week because of the holidays, because of family stuff. And again, because the Lions fell off. If the Lions had won last week and the week before and we were in the middle of a playoff hunt, then I would make that work. But Thursday's just up in the air, but I'll keep you guys posted. Merry Christmas, Rob. Yeah, let's get that marriage proposal happening. I love that. All right, guys, we'll cut it right there. Again, I'll have shorts coming out off of this live here the next couple of days, and then obviously leading up into Christmas Day, we'll have some previewing of the Lions and Vikings game. I'll have my final score and prediction, everything that comes along with that. But again, this week, more than anything else, obviously mental health, but it is Christmas week. I wish you and yours the best holidays. However you spend it, whatever you do, enjoy yourself, try to relax, chill, open some prezzies, drink some drinkies, smoke some smokies. I don't know what you do. Eat some eaties, whatever it is. Peace and grace, just like Trim said. That's a better way to say it. And I appreciate you guys so much. I sound like a broken record, but I really do. Thank you for coming along for another Tuesday night with Johnny Gaz Live every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Remember to check out all your socials. I'm not just here on YouTube or Facebook. We're on Instagram. We on that Twitter. We on that X. We on that TikTok. I don't know how, but I'm on all those. So check me out. Much love. Peace and love. Always go Lions. Oh, and stick around. I made some new backgrounds. I want you guys to see them before you leave. I love y'all. Merry Christmas. Peace and love. Can I find them? Can we get them? Can we get them? There it is. I love you guys. Peace.